On September 7th, we have a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. This is a karmic portal that's going to require surrender, compassion, and to remember our soul's path. Lunar eclipses in this sign are always a little bit more mystical, a little bit otherworldly, and a little bit more intangible. Even though we've got the Sun and Mercury and the South Node in Virgo, which is about the tangible world as an earth sign, there's something about Pisces that reminds us that it's not just about our tangible world. In my recent Substack, I talked about uncertainty a lot and the different things that I like to use, such as myth making, which is reminiscent of a video I recently did with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto being in this mini triangle and creating your own myth, and how myth making is not a way to avoid the uncertainty and the unknown, which is very common during eclipse season, because we know that the nodes being involved in this full moon is what makes it a lunar eclipse, and that's what brings the fate, karma, destiny, even more so than any other event in our lives where we have the illusion of control. This really strips us of the illusion of control, and that can bring anxiety for some of us because we haven't been taught as a culture to lean into uncertainty and the unknown. We've been made to think of the uncertain and the unknown as being negative things, like, oh, I'm going to lose something. But this eclipse is asking, what if you losing something is exactly what you need to continue on the path to your highest good? We are being asked to surrender control, yes. But with Pisces, and especially because Saturn is back in Pisces as well as the beginning of September rolls around, Saturn retrogrades back into the sign of Pisces, it's not even just about that. It's about releasing something too. And with full moons, that is oftentimes a time of release. It's a culmination of something, but also recognizing from that culmination, from that fruition, is there something that needs to be released here? And it's very likely during this full moon that there is. Now, being released doesn't mean that something physical, a job, a person, whatever. It could mean a emotion that needs release. It could be a understanding that needs release. It could be something intangible. Very commonly something like that with the full moon in Pisces. Now, I want you to think about what was going on in your life around February 27th of 2025. It feels like just yesterday I was making that video where I delve more into the archetype of Pisces as well. So if you're interested in listening to that and for listening into the all signs of that and seeing, what was going on around that time of your life, definitely check out that video. But that was the new moon in which this full moon is now culminating. There's something coming to fruition. And it may take a little bit of time for it to fully complete, but we're going to be feeling these energies around this time. Now, because this is a lunar eclipse, we've actually probably been feeling the energy of this lunar eclipse for much longer, probably for the last 2, 4, 6 weeks, and for the 2, 4, 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks after. And we're already feeling the energies of the solar eclipse as well that's happening on the 21st of September. These energies are quite thick, they're quite dense. So we're going to talk about the astrology, human design, Sabian Symbol, and the Decan to get a better understanding of what is being asked of us during this time. I recently did a video where I talk about this axis, this Pisces-Virgo axis that we're having the nodes on, or we're having the eclipses on, so that you can see what part of your life this is happening in. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out. It's my last video. And then I said I'm going to go deeper into each one, so that's what we're doing today. If you have anything around 15 degrees of Pisces, Sagittarius, Virgo, Gemini, you're going to be feeling this the most, the mutable signs. Give about 3 to 5 degrees on either side of that. The closer, the more impactful. Now, let's talk about this eclipse. Mercury currently is in Virgo, exalted, and in domicile. Mercury loves being in Virgo. The Sun is in Virgo, South Node is in Virgo. Now, when we have planets conjunct the South Node, as we have the Sun and Mercury conjunct right now, or they're moving up into a conjunction, into a cazimi on September 13th. So while Mercury is behind the Sun, especially, we can definitely feel really confused about something. Something is unclear in the sign, in the house that you have Virgo right now. Something is unclear, you're unsure. And we're going to talk about this later, but this full moon is happening with the sun in the gate of confusion and the moon in the sign of the gate of doubt. Things could be foggy. And this is also Pisces, right? The veil of Neptune. Fogginess, confusion, sleepy, tired. We could be feeling this way. And on top of that, this energy being conjunct the South Node brings that even more into the world. The South Node is draining. So when we have the sun, our life force, and Mercury, even though exalted, conjunct the South Node, it can often feel like we're mentally exhausted. We don't know what direction, we don't have clarity on the direction which we're going because the sun gives us direction. I also feel like during this time, a lot of us could be feeling like exhausted while simultaneously having a ton of anxiety, which is an activated state, but then we're exhausted at the same time. And so our bodies could be feeling a lot right now, like tend to your bodies. That's a message I'm getting a lot with this eclipse is tend to your body. Because Virgo is very much about the mind-body connection, and then Pisces can really go above the body a lot, can remove itself from the body. It wants to transcend everything. Pisces does, the 12th house. There's a lot going on in our bodies right now. Rest, meditate, take care of yourself on a really deep level, because that will allow you to, number one, connect to the intuitive downloads that are coming through. We're going to talk about this later with the human design channel that's being activated. And it'll allow you to be able to connect with what's actually happening, right? Our bodies house what our mind often tries to run from. And even when we have the moon in Pisces, moon in Pisces is one of my favorite moon placements. I don't like saying I have favorites, but it's true. It's one of my favorites. And I feel like part of the reason why is because I have a moon in Sagittarius and we both like to run. We both like to run from our feelings, right? We run and escape into the realm of fantasy and imagination rather than sitting with what we're actually feeling. So this is a challenge when the moon is in Pisces. But it's one that is worth taking. Confusion, doubt, yes. Clarity will come, especially because we have the Cazimi. It just might not come through as logic. It's most likely going to come through as an intuitive hit, and it's up to you to be able to trust that intuitive hit. The rulers of this moon are Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter exalted in Cancer, asking us to expand through emotional healing. Neptune is in Aries, a part of that mini triangle that I mentioned with Pluto and Uranus. So this is telling me that we're being asked to lean into faith, Jupiter, that whatever we are being asked to release or whatever is being removed from our lives is ultimately for our highest good in terms of emotional healing and for our spiritual path. But that also the spiritual path that we're on, this healing that we're going through currently, has a much bigger picture for the collective because it's involved in that mini triangle that I've mentioned. So if you haven't watched that video, definitely watch that because I also talk about myth making. And like I said in my Substack, I talk about myth making as a way to lean deeper into uncertainty, to create using uncertainty rather than run from it. Knowing that this is playing a part in a bigger picture can often be very helpful. Now, Jupiter is forming a T-square, which is a tense aspect. It's squaring Mars in Libra, which is also squaring, which is opposing Chiron in Aries, which is squaring Jupiter. So this is asking us, how do we find space for our own emotional healing while maintaining relationship and not losing ourselves in the relationships, right? Chiron retrograde in Aries. We're reflecting on how we have abandoned ourselves in relationships to maintain harmony, to maintain peace, and to recognize that that's not peace at all. It's fake, and this is like the shadow side of Libra is being fake because they're trying to always maintain harmony and peace. But how are you going to do that when, there's so many problems with that. Right? Because the other person, number one, doesn't get a chance to actually connect with you because you're just like appeasing them. And so they don't really know who you are. So you're not being authentic. And Aries is all about this. Chiron in Aries is about being authentic. Neptune in Aries as well. And then we've got Mars in Libra, which is like, could be bringing up conflicts in relationships if you are trying to just people please the other person. And Jupiter and Cancer being like, the path to emotional healing is going to require you to face this. How you do this, how you suppress your truth in order to make other people happy. It's not going to work anymore. Look at where this T-square is in your chart. Where is Cancer? Where is Aries? Where is Libra? And then if you notice, the one sign I didn't mention is Capricorn. This is the outlet for the T-square energy. Boundaries, structure, creating structures in our lives internally or externally, but really internally. When I think of this Capricorn area being free here, it really is boundaries, maintaining, because Saturn is boundaries. It's the boundaries of between the tangible and the intangible, and has just moved into Pisces, by the way. So the ruler of the sign that we are being asked to find peace through or resolution through has just moved back into the sign of Pisces, where we have this full moon. Interesting. There's like something dissolving around boundaries. Boundaries are a tough thing, I feel like, for many of us, because especially when it comes to Pisces, because there's such a sensitivity with Pisces, like it's so porous. When boundaries are created, they're often created as walls. But boundaries are not meant to be walls. They're meant to be filters in which we get to see like what's filtering through and what are we not allowing. But if we have walls, then we're not receiving. And Pisces is a very receptive sign. It's a very, very feminine sign. So is Virgo. We're being asked to create boundaries, not walls, and to not let ourselves get overwhelmed with everything, which is why the boundaries are important. But maybe this is a time for us, as Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces over the next 6 months until February 13th, 2026, which it will make a conjunction at the 0-degree point of Aries, the creation point in the zodiac, with Neptune, starting a new cycle of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Last time we had it was in 1989. We are being asked to complete something. Things from the past. Uranus goes retrograde on the 6th, the day before this eclipse. Chiron's retrograde, Pluto's retrograde, Neptune is retrograde, Saturn's retrograde. There's a lot of retrograde energy asking us to complete things from the past. Things from the past could be coming up. A lot of us could be feeling delayed or stuck in the Pisces part of our chart, especially. In 2026, we move into a 1 year. 2025, the whole year is of 9 years. It's a completion. Then 2026, when we have that 0-degree point of Aries being activated with Saturn and Neptune, and it's a 1 year, it's all about fresh new beginnings. And in order to make this new beginning impeccable, we need to make sure that we're closing out these themes. So Neptune's going to go back into Pisces as well. This part of your chart has a lot to show you right now. If you're feeling stuck or delayed or revisiting old themes, it means that you have to in order to be able to fully move into something new. How much can you trust that? How much can you trust that? Now, this is happening in the second decan of Pisces. The second decan of Pisces is ruled by the 9 of Cups, the wish fulfillment card. But it comes after the 8 of Cups, which is walking away from a difficult or emotionally unfulfilling situation. After a time of difficulty, redemption, resurrection, wish fulfillment. The wish fulfillment comes oftentimes when we lean into uncertainty. In the end of my Substack, my last Substack post, I said that we never know, or something like this. We never know what lies on the other side of the uncertainty, on the unknown. It could be everything you've ever wanted. But our minds don't let us think that. Our minds try to protect us through doubt and confusion, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I'm just going to talk about the Sabian symbol, and then we'll go into the human design. But our mind's trying to protect us through the doubt and the confusion of, well, I don't know I don't really understand this. Or like, well, what does this mean? And well, it won't work for me. And so then we can play safe and we can be small. But Pisces reminds us that we are one. We are the divine. We don't have to play small. It's a choice that we're making. And when we surrender our ego to a certain degree, right? Our ego is important, very important actually. But when we surrender our egoic desires to what we know, we feel in our bones the world is asking of us, but we're like, no, I can't do that. No, I'm resisting. naturally inspiration flows through our bodies. Healing occurs naturally, spontaneously. As many of you guys know, I have a background of over a decade of chronic pain and multiple autoimmune illnesses. And it's just so fascinating to see how healing can spontaneously occur when you just stop trying to figure it out. And when you stop blocking the healing channels in your body through resistance. So much of we don't even realize, you guys, how much day to day, Virgo, we create so much pain and suffering through resistance of every little emotion. And we lean into anxiety because we think that if we have the anxiety, we can figure it out, we'll be able to predict the future, and we can't. We can't predict it. I don't care how good of an astrologer you are. I don't care what kind of a psychic you are. You cannot predict it with accuracy every single time. It is unknown. The future is unknown. All you have is right now. And this is why I just did that workshop on turning triggers into gold. Like, to me, embodiment and learning to work with dysregulation and triggers and listening to your body is the magnum opus of our lives, truly. Learning how to lean into the uncertainty and recognizing that the anxiety that we have right now is us trying to figure something out that can't be figured out by the logical mind. And honestly, you don't want it to be figured out because it could be so much better than what you could think of. Check out my Substack if you haven't, and make sure you subscribe. That's like the best way to keep in touch with all my stuff. Okay, I want to read the Sabian symbol for 16 degrees of Pisces, which is the flow of inspiration. The theme here is creative solution. This symbol speaks to the practical application of spiritual power. Interesting, the practical application while we have the Sun and Mercury in Virgo, day-to-day practicalities. The image of the flow of inspiration alludes to a divine outpouring of creative energy that can be used for everyday problem solving. But the greater implication is that inspiration can be found everywhere by the individual who has trained himself to be sensitive to the illimitable potential waiting to be discovered in everything that exists. The suggestion here is that every challenge is an opportunity for stretching the imagination and developing resourcefulness. Your greatest advantage lies in creating enough time and space in your life to get in touch with your higher self. Use your imagination and listen to your intuition. Guard against falling victim to the delusion that thinking is the same as doing. Put your ideas to work in practical and everyday world. Oof, that's so powerful. I also just want to say, in my workshop, in the Q&A, the higher self came up, and we talked about how like the higher self is really ourselves. It's just, can we reconnect to that day to day? Doing that, we need to create time and space. And so much of this world is so hustle and bustle that we don't have the time and space to reconnect, and we don't realize that this is actually the true work. I'm in Portugal right now. I'm in northern Portugal, and we visited this church, and my partner and I were just like looking at it, and it's so long ago. I don't even know. It was like 800 years ago or something that it was made. And it's so intricate and so amazing. You always wonder, like, how did they know to do this? You know, like they didn't have the technology that we have today, but they had lots of time. And they were connected to something that's so much bigger than what we connect to now day to day, because they had the time and space for it. Yes, they didn't have all the things that we have now, but their intelligence came from something much deeper. You know, I always think about the chakras, how the Hindu system of the chakras, like now we know that those areas have increased nerve bundle fibers. They didn't know that. They didn't have the technology to know that, but they were connected to something through that time, giving themselves that time and space to connect to that intelligence. That's the intelligence of Pisces, by the way. A lot of highly Piscean people may often feel, especially if you have Mercury in Pisces, could feel like you're not intelligent in the way that like logical modern society wants you to be. But the intelligence is like on a whole different level with Pisces. You know, it's that intuitive knowing, but can you trust it? Can you trust it without letting the mind interfere? Which is a great segue into the human design gene keys. So as I mentioned, this is happening in the gate of doubt, gate 63. The moon is in gate 63. The sun is in gate 64. Both of these are in the head center. There are 3 gates in the head center. 2 of them are activated right now. And the head center is all about logic and figuring things out. Richard Rudd says, doubt comes about when you have lost touch with the wonders of your imagination. And in fact, I would say even going beyond your imagination, knowing that's possible too. But it goes from the shadow of doubt to the gift of inquiry to the city of truth. Doubt comes about when you have lost touch with the wonders of your imagination. I had generalized anxiety disorder for many years. I was going to the hospital all the time in pharmacy school, especially, but throughout my life, that was like a massive thing that I had. And now I'm not saying I'm never anxious. That's not true. I'm human, but the relationship I have to anxiety is like so different. It's so different. It's a messenger. It's a messenger. But I realized how much anxiety we're addicted to it, number one, because it helps protect us. I don't want to go super into that today. Anxiety is a way that we cover up our fear. And when we tune into what's underneath that anxiety, it's very powerful. Very, very powerful. I used to say I have social anxiety. Like all of it is fear. That's what we're trying to cover up here. Okay. Richard Rudd says that the golden rule of the gift of inquiry. So when we move from the shadow of doubt into the gift of inquiry, he says, if you inquire deeply enough into anything, you will begin to see the revelation that you, the observer, are intricately bound with that which you observe. And so in some ways, the more that you go deeper into logic, it kind of cancels itself out. There is an intelligence and intuition that can't be explained, right? Like that's the whole point. And so it evokes like this wonder in the world that is so difficult to have when you're steeped in logic. It becomes very serious. I talked earlier and throughout this video about intuition and how we might be getting these like intuitive hits. And that's because during this time, we have Mars in gate 57 and Uranus in gate 20. This creates the channel of the brainwave, and Ra Uru Hu said that this is the most psychic channel. It connects our spleen, our physical instinct, to the throat, our expression and manifestation. When we have intuitive downloads from the spleen, they're very quiet and they happen in the body. So collectively, this is what I said, taking care of our bodies, tuning into ourselves so that we understand like what's mine, what's not mine, creating those boundaries. Because what we can get with the 2057 is sudden truths blurted out, spontaneous clarity coming through, prophetic insights, but you have to be open to it because gate 20 is the gate of the now. It's the present. And with Mars here, when it's agitated, it can act with fear because the spleen is an area of our human design that's about fear. So remember I said that Mars is involved in this T-square, so it's very likely that we move with fear rather than intuitive knowing. If we are not slowing down, creating space and time to connect with ourselves, with our bodies, and allowing those insights to come through so that Jupiter and Cancer healing, emotional healing can occur and we can be directed to our spiritual path. So there's a lot to digest here. Everything we've talked about today, there's a lot of change happening collectively and in our own lives. And like I said, this can put us in a state of overwhelm. And when we're overwhelmed, we can't act with clarity. When we can't act with clarity, we create distortion in our lives. And when we create distortion in our lives, we lose touch with ourselves and start moving on a path that is not ours. I'm right there with you guys. I've been definitely feeling this like activation between that overwhelm and anxiety. Not so much anxiety, but more overwhelm. And then desiring to rest and release. Finding the time and space even when life is moving so fast and there's like so many seemingly important things out here, like how can we create the time to rest, whether that's through sleep or meditation or yoga or something like that. Let me know how this resonates for you guys. What's going on in your lives? How are you feeling? How have you been feeling during this time? What are you releasing? What are you surrendering to? Please make sure to like this video and subscribe. Also subscribe to my Substack. I'll have that in the description down below. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I'll have my link down there as well. It's been really amazing getting readings ever since I started doing the donations to the animal rescues in Gaza and Iran. So far, I've done more to the one in Iran because the one in Gaza, actually, they do get a lot of donations from around the world because they have a large Instagram. Highly recommend you guys follow them. Maybe I'll put those down in the description as well. But anyway, it's been amazing to be able to like funnel that energy from you guys through me into these animal rescues. So I wouldn't be able to do that without you. And so thank you so much for giving me that opportunity and being a part of that chain of love and support. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.